Hey everyone, Pinchel here, and we're live. I got some time to do some stuff, so I'm gonna tear down in 1.8 and get back to work and do some other stuff. But wanted you guys to check it out. Um, I'm always busy, always doing some stuff. But I'm here to answer your guys' questions, hang out, talk for a little while. I'm trying to get live on Instagram. There we go. All right. But just wanted to see what's up, what's going on. Hi, everyone. Welcome to a live teardown. Every got some baggies all taken care of. So we're going to just do some work right now. Let's see here. Give you guys a little adjustment. There we go. So we got to take down the front timing cover. And that's a 10 millimeter, pretty much for all that. I've already taken the head off. Well, I've had the head off for a while. I just finally gotten time to get to this build and start building this 1.8. This is for my wife's Mark II. Let's see here, timing cover. But if you guys have any questions while I'm working, definitely feel free to post and I'll answer questions as best I can. I know my wife's in bed, needing some rest. She's a little tired from today. Long day with the baby. I gotta go to bed in about an hour or so. So I'm gonna try to be as productive as I can in the little time that I got right now. But I got your comments on top. Got you guys on Instagram as well. What's going on, everyone? Now we already got rods for this. I'm gonna have the pistons examined since this one had a timing belt failure. We're gonna find out if the pistons are still good. If not, I'm gonna have to buy pistons. Hopefully the pistons are good. I'm not going for crazy big power. I just want this to be a good daily motor for my wife. On a Mark II, I mean, it weighs almost 1,000 pounds less than my Mark IV, so see how that goes. Now you'll see here what failed on this guy. This is a Gates racing belt, and it lost about 3 inches worth of teeth. Pretty crazy. So yeah. So that's trash. Can't use that ever again. Water pump, I mean, seems pretty decent. Let's see here. I don't know what's on my ration. I just had it in my hand. There. I didn't lock the motor yet in place, primarily because it's still got a lot of oil in it. So I've been draining it for a while. Got a full, pretty much a full pan of oil. It's pretty crazy. Thought I drained it all, but I guess I didn't drain it at all. I know it's super late, but right now wife and baby are in bed, so this is probably the best time I have right now to do anything on the car. So I labeled this one timing stuff. I'm going to be putting pretty much anything that uses the 10mm bolts on here. I'm going to be going on this. This is all trash. I'm never going to reuse this stuff. None of the stuff that's on here already. Just the hardware is always good to have on the side. Yeah, metal impeller water pump did not fail or have any oxidizing. Not bad. Thermostat gone. Okay. The timing belt tensioner here. Oh, I got a good cut on me. I don't know from where. This is the worst. But thank you for tuning in. I know it's late for you guys, but I'm wide awake, so I'm gonna do something. Make my time useful. Like I said, if you guys have any questions, feel free to ask them away. I got my chat room open. No. Come on. One bolt giving me the problem. There we go. That one's stripped. Good thing it came off, but no good. That one definitely stripped. That's going in the trash. Useless timing tensioner. Now this is a front main seal. Now this front main seal won't come off until we get the cam gear off. And I mean the crank gear. And to get this sucker off, we're going to need to take the oil pan off. So when I get to that, I'll show you guys how to do that, because this sucker goes on super hard. So we're not going to get to that point yet. That one's a pain. Next is the oil cooler and the oil cooler like housing. That one, we need to get the cooler off first. Then we only got the Allen bit right here for this guy to come off, and that should be it. Might have that on here. Get that off quick. Now I'm going to keep this with the oil pen stuff. I'm never going to reuse this oil return line if we're going with a bigger turbo. So this line is useless to me, but it's got a drain, so that's gone. Oh, we got some people on here. Hey everybody, thanks for tuning in. Thank you. Okay, so give me a second here. I'll answer your guys' questions. Yeah, I mean, this is probably one of my favorite engines in the world. I mean, honestly, it's rock solid. It will take a beating, and you don't need much money to make a lot of power. And it's very, very simple, and there's not a lot of parts to it. It's kind of like an old school engine with, you know, newer technology. So honestly, if the pistons are salvageable on this motor, I already have integrated engineering rods for it. This is an easy 400 horsepower build just with rods. And obviously you got to get the pistons, I mean the cylinders honed and taken care of. And obviously the block has to be decked. The head has to be decked. That way the head gasket mates to the engine nicely. We're going to end up getting the whole engine clean, hot tanked and everything. So that's definitely something you guys got to consider. Give me a second here. I'm going to get you guys on my YouTube feed over here so I can read your guys' comments better. Just give me a second, all right, guys? All right. This will work way better for me. For John, how much can you bore these out? Not much. You can see the cylinder walls are not very thick. What you do is that you get lower, what we call lower compression pistons. They help a lot, especially if you want to go to a bigger motor. So I would recommend, if you want to get this from a 1.8 to a 2 liter or a 2.1 liter, you get a TDI crank and then lower compression pistons and rods, and then you can make this a 2 liter or larger engine. Usually you can bore out 2 to 3 thousandths out of this guy. It's not going to do very much in the sense of compression. You're better off going to, like I said, to a better crank and rods and pistons to go to that. Hopefully that answers. Exactly, Peter. Why? You can buy a K-Series engine. Don't get me wrong. K-Series engines are dope. They love to get boosted. However, they are not reliable until you actually sleeve them and put all the extra thousands of dollars to get one of those motors to make power. Again, I got nothing against a boosted K-Series, but a little 1.8 you can go buy for $200-300, slap in 2 to 3 grand worth of work, and you got a 400 horsepower daily monster. I mean, yeah, it's kind of a no-brainer, honestly. I'm gonna be right back. I gotta get this oil cooler off. I think the oil cooler uses a 27 millimeter. Yep, 27. And it's really weird. because it's like down here and they don't go on very tight, but it's like an awkward spot and it's like super flat. It's weird. I hate taking this stupid nut off, honestly. It's really awkward to get off. There we go. Like if you're not 100% flat with it, it won't come off. It's this little tiny nut. I mean, this thing, it's super thin and narrow. It's weird. But don't lose it because it's very important to your build. Now, this is the oil cooler. That's sad. He went through 3K. This is your oil cooler. So coolant goes through here, cools the oil, goes back into the car. Pretty dope. This actually looks in really good condition for a cooler. I know that's not saying very much, but there's no oxidation on the ends. I have a new one, so I don't care. But it's actually not that bad. I'm pretty impressed with it. So that's off. So when you take the cooler nut off, make sure you put it back on. Don't lose that. That sucker is not an easy nut to find, especially if you lose it and try to buy another one. You'd be surprised how hard those are to find. So I got some more extra rags. I'm getting a little dirty. Not bad. So now we're going to actually take the actual oil cooler, like crankcase, housing, and cooler mounting stuff. Now, one issue here is this uses stretch bolts. I keep them for reference, but never reuse them. These are one-time use bolts. And I had a guy, I forgot who asked me on my channel. He says if he was in a pickle and he needed to reuse stretch bolts, don't. For braiding cover, for an aftermarket fluid dampener, or AKA the harmonic balancer, well, it depends on your power rating. If you're going to stay under 450 or lower, the stock one is perfect. You don't need to go anything better than that. Now, if you're trying to go big power, I believe 034 Motorsports makes a high performance one for big power gains. But if you get an aftermarket harmonic balancer, you have to balance the crank to that. So be ready to fork out an extra $400 to $500 to balance your crank to that balancer. It's not something you can just slap on the car and call it, good to go. It's something you actually have to balance and get to work. It's not a bolt-on, item. So these are the 4 bolts on the oil cooler crankcase housing thing. So you need to make sure these are safe. Not reuse them. You're just going to use them as a reference. John. Also, do you know if a throttle bodies are interchangeable between 84 Quattro and? Yes, they are interchangeable. I'm actually using on my Mark IV, I think a 2002, 2003 Audi throttle body. It doesn't have the vacuum port on top. That's the only reason why I used it. But yes, they are interchangeable. Oh, I'm glad I was able to answer your question, sir. So these are the bolts. Keep them together, throw them, and separate them. Now this whole assembly can come off. Just give it a couple whacks, or actually a tap, and this whole assembly just came right off. You'll see right here. This is, like I said, this is for your crankcase ventilation. This is where pretty much your crankcase goes through, coolant and oil goes through this one whole entire system. So very careful. This machine surface has to be like debris free when you install it. So give it a good cleaning and just keep it away from other stuff. Just don't let it get scratched or damaged. It's really important for your build. Anything with like a machine surface, you really want to take heed and caution, because once it's actually perfectly smooth, you do not want to scratch it, because it will cause damage down the road. Just word of advice. You know, anything that gets scratched, this machine is technically now a flaw for the engine to find a weak spot during your build or during, you know, when you're using it. So it's just something you got to factor in your build, guys. So now we're going to rotate the engine. We're going to take the oil pan off and get that going, because I'm going to get ready to take this crank bolt off. Now, I kept my oil pan on the ground because this is going to make a mess. Keep in mind, this is heavy. Oh, we got to go the other way. My hardware is preventing it from going. We got coolant. No biggie. Now, you want to make sure you can lock this in place now, because this is you're gonna take some stuff off. That's pretty important. So in this area, we got the oil pan, the rear main seal and the front main seal all have to come off. The rear main seal is going to be a bitch because I don't have access to it, so I got to like kind of jimmy rig a 10 millimeter to get all that off. So for your oil pan, you just need a 10 mil, really long extension, and work your way around. Just break it all loose. That way you can just take it all off by hand afterwards. Let's see, someone commented. How's it going, Samuel? What's going on? Yep, late night at Pinche Al's garage. Now, one thing you need to learn about people who put oil pans on cars, they use a ton of RTV, so it can be a little bit annoying. I don't think this oil pan's ever been removed or actually damaged, so it's actually a good pan. The car that this came out of, the owner was actually a very, very good owner. I don't know if you guys remember, you got that black engine that I built that I put in another Mark IV. Yeah, awesome. I'm glad. So I don't know if you guys remember a couple episodes back, this is the engine that blew on him, and I gave him my engine that was in, tip-top condition, just because, and I just charged him to put it all back in his car and got it all going. So, we don't know exactly why this engine failed, in all honesty, because the water pump spins fine, the cranks, the engine's not seized, the head cranks over just fine. I don't know what failed on this car. It's really on this engine. We don't know. Hey man, recently shifted from 2 to 3rd. And my 1.8T ended up losing 3rd. LOL. Can't stick into 1st or 3rd or reverse. Took tranny out, ripped it apart. It all seems fine. Thoughts? Could be a couple things. Number one, the clutch failed. Pressure plate or throttle bearing took a dump, or your shift linkage is all destroyed. So, a couple things. So I would start with the cheap stuff first. Replace the shift linkage on the ends. Do some adjustments. See if the gears will go in. If it doesn't, then swap out the clutch or just a throwout bearing. Check the condition of everything. I mean, you got a pretty long list of work, but yes, that's what I would do. So I got a baggie for my oil pan. And I got a little magnetic pickup. Yeah, pretty much, Johnny. Reset them. For Braden Kever, trying to make 500 or less. What clutch? Well, depends on your budget. A really good clutch. For A, check your cables. It might just be your cables. You might have shifted too hard and destroyed one of the cables, or it might have just adjusted on its own. It happens. For Brandon, to make, it depends, man. There's a lot of clutches out there, but you are looking anywhere in the stage 3 category, just so you know. So a 6-puck with a heavy pressure plate, just to give you a heads up. So your price range is anywhere from $600 to $1,200 for a clutch on average for a good clutch. Right now I have a stage 2 ACT and it sucks for the amount of power I have. The clutch itself is amazing, but for the power that I'm making, it's not a good clutch. All the oil pan bolts removed. Now, if you want to remove this pan without damaging it, I'll show you a cool trick. What's going on, GSX? For A, I highly recommend you get a limited slip, just so you know, a diff, because you're going to destroy that tranny pretty quick with that much power. just FYI. What's really cool, there's a notch over here that prevents you from damaging the pan. Right here, look at that. Just like that. Pick it up and lift it up. So it's out of the way. Now, they put these notches in here so you don't damage stuff. So you don't scuff the machine surfaces. Those are super, super important, guys. All right, so now we got the bottom end exposed finally. And now it's time to take the rest of this off. For a GSX 1000, this is my wife's 1.8T, just so you know. So now we're inside. We're going to call the next baggie that we're going to take apart or put all the stuff in. We're going to call this oil pump stuff. Because we're not getting into the rods yet. We're still not even close to that. Okay. Again, they're 10 millimeters. Nothing crazy. It's all simple, tiny bolts. So the first thing we need to take off is the pickup. Actually, no, I'm going to take off the baffle. Now, be super careful with the baffle that's in here. It's legitimately super thin plastic, so it breaks super easy. Just lay it down on your pan. Now you guys can see the crank. Pretty cool. I'm going to get you a little bit closer, all right, guys? Bear with me here. There you go. John Sadet. Yes, I do have an Instagram. And that's pincheals_garage. That is my Instagram. I just changed it. So you guys can actually find me a lot easier on Instagram. Now, this one's going to be tricky. I don't like doing this one as much. Because I don't like this one. This is the one bolt that I'm not a fan of because it's weird to get off. Now, this is your oil pickup. Now, one thing that I like to do when I do bolts like this, when I take them off, okay, you'll see what I mean right now. Down here, out of the way, put the bolts back in their home location. Less stuff for you to manage and figure out what goes where. These guys don't need to go anywhere, so you'll be fine. Now, I can't take this piece off yet because the front crank bolt is in the way, so we need to get to that. So we're going to show you something on how to keep the crank from spinning. We need to get a 19 multi-point, big old ratchet. And then you need to find a spot. There you go. And cram a 2x4 right there. See that? Just like that. Now that that's there, you can get yourself a big ass breaker bar. Be right back. So I got myself like a 2-foot breaker bar, and then we're gonna break. Oh, was gonna break it loose, just like that. Hold it back here, and then. Oh wait, I gotta go the other way. My bad. Same process. God, I hate doing this. Ah. Ah. All right, give me a second here. This is being a little punk right now. Ah. Fuck you. I mean, front door. That sucker. Ah. I wish I had an impact. But it's also 12 o'clock. I'm not going to use my impact. Now, when you remove this, you guys see this? Hold on. There you go. This is what you need to salvage. These are not reusable, just so you guys know. But I keep them together just for funsies. But now that's off. Now we can take the front timing cover or the front main seal. So another baggie. What do they call it? Front main seal. And that also comes apart with a 10 millimeter. Nothing crazy. Now, if this seal ever leaks, God forbid, but you saw what I had to do to get that. For John Stewart, yes, I do have tons of videos removing engines from cars. Just look them up. There's a ton of them on my YouTube channel, and that's starting from full like front end teardown, then working your way to removing the engine. All right, that's all off. So, All right. So the bolts for the front main seal, tag them and bag them, dump them in the box. You need a flathead screwdriver. Now, remember what we said, don't damage the machine surfaces. So you can get it from the inside. Okay? And you can pry from here, because you're not really touching anything machine-wise. And there's a spot down below that gives you just a tad of pry room. Just be careful. There we go. All right. And now this exposes the front of the engine for the rest of the disassembly. So I'm going to get you guys a little closer so you guys can see this. All right, give me a second, guys, here. Hopefully that works. So now we're at the front of the, this is actually still the front of the motor. This is your back. There's a Torx bit here that holds this gear. There's a 10 millimeter that holds this tensioner for the chain. This is not timed, okay, guys? There's no timing required for this. But when you guys are rebuilding your 1.8, this has to be replaced and the chain has to be replaced. If you cannot get a new chain, it's okay, not a big deal, but make sure you get a new tensioner. This is super important, and I'll show you why when we get to that point. Need my piece of wood. Okay, we're gonna need a bigger ratchet for this one. Be right back. Nope. 45. Yeah, I think it's a T40 for this guy. Yep. What's going on here? All right, that guy's being a little troublesome, so we're not gonna try to pursue that anymore right now. We're gonna take off the tensioner. Again, 10 millimeter. And we're gonna take apart the pump right here. Let's see. Good morning from Holland. For Laura Ferreria, what gaskets? I use Victor Wren's gaskets for this. SoCal Gunner, yes, I always do my work late at night. Best work. Can a bad coil pack cause crank only? No. A bad coil pack will cause misfires. And that fell in there. See? You distracted me. Don't worry. No, coil packs will only cause misfires. Will not prevent a car from starting. That's for sure. Now this tension is going to come right off. Leave that pressure on that chain. Now remember I told you I'm going to show you why you got to replace these. Every single time this comes off. You guys can see here, there's grooves right here. You see that? You don't want to reuse this. You never want to use this. All right. Erling is actually a good brand. They are an OEM replacement gasket. I use Victor Reds because that is the OEM brand for Volkswagen for gaskets. So I stay with them. They're more expensive, but I know what I'm getting if I buy it. And if you use Victor Ends, you can actually get complete seal kits that seal up the entire engine, and you actually get a better deal doing that. Just a pointer there for you. Now this guy's going to be problematic, I know that. That gear has to come off. Oh, maybe not. There we go. Now I'm going to show you guys something. There is a spec for this oil pump. If you have a feeler gauge, look up in your Bentley manual, and inside your pump right here, you guys can see that. There's a minimum spec right there to the to that gap in between. You see that? There's a gap right there. Those two metals have a specific gap. If there's too much of a gap, your oil pump will be failing and you'll be starving your engine pretty much. So look up your Bentley manual and you'll know what you'll need down the road. If it's out of spec, get a new one. The good thing, oil pumps are actually not that expensive. Good night, sir. Thank you for tuning in. All right, now the rear main seal, and then we'll take off all the bolts for the crank, and then that completes our engine teardown. We'll take the rods out and everything. Let's see here. So this is gonna totally suck, honestly. Let's see if I can get it to work, but no promises. Oh my goodness. It's just too big. Okay, I'm gonna go get a different wrench. Be right back. Get myself a box end wrench, but this is gonna be the slow part. All right, so tomorrow we'll do another live session, and we're gonna do the head tear down as well, just so you guys know. You guys can see that. It's pretty cool to tear down a head. Here we're going to call this the rear main seal. Let's see here. Pincha, what are your chances of a head being warped on a Mark IV 12 valve that is overheated? How easily do they warp when overheated? So for SoCal Gunner, how easy? Well, number one, did your head gasket survive? Because they're dissimilar metals. So the head is aluminum, the block is cast iron. You can warp them legitimately once overheating your car really good. I don't know how you overheated it or how good or how long did you overheat it for, but they immediately warp. So it really matters on the situation. I wish I could give you better information, but yeah, it's hard to tell. But even if they warp, you can fix them, just so you know. Just got to have the head decked and lined up again, and then, yeah, it's repaired. Just remember, you're going to spend some money. That's it. But if you're going to rebuild a VR, might as well build it, right? Not leave it stock. I make it a high compression engine. Make it a monster all motor. Or do like everybody else does. Make them turbo. Nothing wrong with that. Let's see here. It's kind of hard. A compression check might give you the answer, honestly, because it's a warped head. So I would definitely just do compression and see if the compression's holding. If it is, then I would recommend doing a leak down test. A leak down test will tell you if you're getting fumes in different areas of the engine. It'll give you a little bit better answer overall. So I would do those two tests. But if it's a car you got for free, I mean, not much to be afraid of, honestly. I mean, if it's bad, it's bad, and just build another one or build an engine. Have fun with it. Project car. I'm very happy because this rear main seal is actually the original one. It's never been removed, so the nuts are coming off really nicely by hand. A lot of people who do these do a horrible job redoing their gaskets and so much RTV and ugh. Remember, guys, less is more. All right, rear main seal has been unbolted. So we should be able to pop it off just like that and leave it there because the crank has to come out still. So now we have the main caps, but we don't touch the main caps until we take the rods out. Okay? So let's get to work on that. Now, one thing you can do, you can put your crank bolt back on. This will let you at least crank the engine around when you need to crank it. I mean, it's pretty easy to crank by hand, but this will just make it a lot easier for you. All right, there we go. So we got those ready to come off. Now remember, front engine, cylinder 1, cylinder 2, 3, and 4. Okay? You need to label every piston that comes out in that order, because they have to go back in those specific cylinders. Oh, so cool. Nothing to worry about, man. I got a VR6 chilling in my storage unit, and I'm not going to be building soon, so I will have DIYs coming very soon for a 12-valve VR6. So you guys got to get excited for that. I will be right back. I got to get my adapters and stuff for this portion. All right. So this uses an E10, kind of like a reverse Torx. I really don't care what happened to these rods since I'm not using these. I don't even need the hardware. It's just they have to come out. I need the pistons. That's what I need. It's a pinch out. That would be sweet. There aren't many good VR teardown videos on YouTube, at least good in depth. Yeah, that's me. Good and in depth. I'm not gonna say I'm great. I'm good at what I do, but I'm not great. That's for sure. Okay, so I don't care for the hardware on this stuff. I'm still gonna bag it, but I don't care for it since I'm not gonna be reusing it. The rods are actually in good condition, but like again, I don't care. So I'm just gonna toss them. They're gonna go in my box of crap. Box of crap. And then just slide this off. There's a bearing. Box of crap. Don't care for it. So now we gotta do is pop this out without damaging the freaking crank. We gotta avoid damaging the crank at all costs. All right, cylinder number 1 or piston number 1 is out. Ooh, look at that! Look at that carbon buildup. What's actually nice, cylinder walls are still piston walls are very good. This motor was well taken care of. So what we're going to do, can't label it there. Maybe I can. Yeah. So we're going to label it number 1. Right there. Okay. And slide it over here. Out of the way. My rod bearing. Useless. All right, next one. I'm popping out now number 4, just so you guys know. John, I actually have about 4 or 5 extra throttle bodies if you need one. I keep those in stock all the time, so I know people need them. So if you want to hit me up, $20 plus shipping for a throttle body. Piston number 4 is out in a boot. Again, I don't care about damaging the rods. I'm not using the rods anymore. I got to make sure I can salvage these pistons. If not, I'm buying pistons. So this is number 4. No. Yeah, it's perfectly fine, John. SoCal Gunner, VR6 throttle bodies are very different from 1.8T. They're actually larger. No, I've never rebuilt the throttle body. Why? Because it's cheaper to just go buy one from a junkyard. Throttle bodies are pretty cheap. That's why I sell them pretty cheap. I test them. I put them on my car when I buy them from the junkyard. But yeah, they're pretty cheap. All right. Piston number 2 is next. Number 2 is out. Now, there's a really cool thing you guys can buy at AutoZone called Parts Cleaner in a bucket. You dump your pistons in it, and it will make them pretty much shiny and new in like 12 hours. So this is number 2. Now, if any of you guys are just tuning in, why is he hitting it with the... I don't care about the rods. So I have a box, legitimately a box of rods just chilling on the ground right here. There's like 15 rods in this box. They're all OEM spec. I don't care. All right, and this is number 3. We're down to the last piece, guys, and that's the crank. All right, so you have main caps. Now, main caps are super important because they go in a very specific order. Front to back, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and they're numeric, they're labeled. So don't forget that. Super important, guys. If you forget it, then just forget about it. What size are we using here? Now these go on with a pretty decent amount of force. So you're gonna need a breaker bar. Give me a second and see if you guys have any questions. Yeah, because VR throttle bodies are like super desirable because they fail a lot. Now, these bolts are not usable. They're one-time use bolts. They're stretch bolts. So you install them once, and you're done. All right. Again, these are one-time use bolts. You're not allowed to reuse them. Let's see here. Yeah. VR throttle bodies are worth some money if they're good condition. This ring right here, guys, is a crank position sensor ring. You guys got to be careful not to bend that or damage it in any way. If you remove it, you need to replace it. It's not a part you can reinstall. You have to get another one. It's per the Bentley manual, so I read and I believe Bentley manual, so what it says. I'm just rephrasing it back to you guys so you guys understand that. All right. Main cap removal. I'm going to clean up my work area here. All right, now it's time to take the main caps off. They are kind of a bitch to remove. You got to use the bolts kind of like to shimmy them out, just like that. The middle one is kind of the harder one to get off. It doesn't have much plate. This is kind of a weird one. A couple little taps. Help you. There we go. Now you have thrust washers. Worry about this in a little bit. Crank is ready to pop out. So give me just a second here. What is it? Yeah, ARP is the best. Yes, main caps are torque to yield bolts, aka stretch bolts. That's the crank. Now, down below, I want to show you guys, give you guys a close-up look here. In just a second. Hopefully you guys can see this. You see that down there? That's what we call an oil squirter. Right there. That little piece. Those got to come out too, okay, guys? And the old rod, the old crank bearings have to come out too. So that, in a nutshell, is a full bottom end 1.8T teardown. Not that bad, huh? Engines are very intimidating. You'd be surprised at how many people are scared to tear one of these down. They're very simple to work with. You just got to be patient with them. Like all the measurements and stuff, I don't do that work. I have my machine shop do the harder stuff. I'm not a fan of measuring parts. I suck at measurements. So I have my machine shop do all that work for me. That way it gets done right and I don't freak out because I got a wrong measurement somewhere. But I'm going to turn this around. Oh, there goes all that stuff. There you go. Messy, messy. Oil is very slippery, by the way. And then turn it, turn it, turn it. Drain the rest of the oil. Gonna make a mess. Oh well. Make sure you lock your engine in place so you don't drop it or it doesn't fall down or turn or whatever. Now, cylinder walls on this thing is freaking nice. Wish I had better lighting so you guys can see this, but that in a nutshell, folks, is a 1.8T bottom end tear down. We still got a head to work on next. We're going to show you how to tear that down later. I got to go get the tool for it so we can take the valves and everything out. But thanks for tuning in, everybody, for this, because next time you see this engine, it's going to be fully machined and ready to get built. And then we're going to show you guys how to put this all together. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Awesome night. Awesome, awesome. Thank you. And as always, we're going to break it, we're going to fix it, and then repeat. Oh, man. What a night. Peace out, everyone, and thanks again.